Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Think about these words for just a moment. Kim Jong-un had no military experience whatsoever before his daddy made him a 4-star general. This snot-nosed twerp had never accomplished anything in his life that even would come close to military leadership. He hadn't even so much as led a Cub Scout troop, coached a sports team, or commanded a military platoon. So he is made the beloved leader of North Korea. Terrific. Wait a minute. Oh, darn, I'm really sorry about what I just said. I just remembered that we did the same thing. We took an arrogant, phony community organizer who had never worn a uniform, never ran so much as an ice cream stand, and made him commander-in-chief. A guy who had never had a real job, worked on a budget, nor led anything more than an acorn demonstration, and we made him beloved leader of the United States twice. So if you think North Koreans are stupid, tisk, tisk. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much to Kate Smith, and God bless America. Good morning, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you. And we've got some great advertisers, too, like Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Call 734-6969. Right now, let's go to the phone line, and here is our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
You the man.
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, my goodness sakes. Thank you, Wheels, and good to have you on the receiving end of my askings this morning. You do a great job as the board op.
That means a lot. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Cheney Flooring and Home Design, our weather sponsor, and these folks are so nice. Kyle and Whitney Cheney, and they've got all the tile in stock, and you can save a lot of money because they've got a great big October sale going on in celebration of their wedding anniversary. As a matter of fact, they were married in October, and they're having a huge fall sale at Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Well, good Tuesday morning. Scotty Cameron in for your Zeb at the weather forecast. Gina Jameson is out today. Well, looks like we're going to see some sun, going to be blowing a little bit as well. Highs are only going to reach around 63 with wind gusts around 33 miles per hour. Now, tonight, you're going to want to cover your tomatoes. There is a freeze warning in effect. Lows are going to be around 32 as the skies clear off. Then for tomorrow, expecting some sunshine. Highs around 63, clear for tomorrow night. Lows of 39. Then for Thursday, mostly sunny, highs around 70 as we go into the weekend, looking for some rain as things are going to be cooling off again during the weekend. That is your Zeb at the Ranch, your weather forecast. I'm Scotty Cameron.
Scotty, thank you very much. I'm sorry I didn't know Gina was not doing the weather this morning, but I'll tell you what, Scotty always does a great job. Brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. All your carpet and flooring, kitchen construction, that is. Home decor items, whatever you need to make your house a home at Genie Flooring and Home Design in Burley. Really, really nice people. Hey, don't forget on Thursdays it's sale day at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard. You better believe it, at 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. The number to call for cattle consignment information and sale information, 678-9411. Merv May, Cade, Rogge, Lance Udy, all of them working for you. Sale time 11 o'clock on Thursday, Burley Livestock Sale Yard. You be there. We have a lot of stories to go through this morning, and I want to acknowledge the fact that we are welcoming the return of a dear friend that has been on my program for years, and that's Frosty Woolridge. Frosty is back after a summer hiatus, and we're looking forward to really getting his opinion. I understand he has traveled one of the highest concentrated Muslim areas in the United States, Dearborn, Michigan, and we're going to get his response as to what he saw, what he heard, and what he learned, and that's going to be at 9:06 this morning. Then at 9:30, Susan Swift is going to be here talking about Hillary, and we may be seeing a done deal. I hope not. 10:06, Dr. History. And then Rachel Alexander is going to be on the phone with me at 10:30 talking about why is it different back in the Dakotas to let the Sioux Indian tribe take over federal lands and just do whatever they want and kind of a protest. But we had a severe mess up in Oregon that resulted in the death of Lavoy Finicum. And we're going to be talking about that, so don't go away. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. And as I've been mentioning, you went to the closet the other day and said, oh, my goodness, my winter coat. It's got ice cream stains on it and part of Thanksgiving on it. I better get it clean. Well, you'd better, because the colder weather is on the way. So stop into Daryl's Cleaners today at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Kevin and Cindy, they can clean anything, and they do a great job with your rumply crumplies. You stop in and see them today. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Also want to acknowledge that if it weren't for SafeLink Internet, boy, I'll tell you what, we need them. We need them here. And they're very fast, very reliable, and believe me, they have increased their extended hours of technical support. People that really know, people that really care. Call and get on the program today. SafeLink Internet, 677-8000. That number again, 677-8000. All right, your calls are welcome and appreciated. So give me a jingle at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Let's start off with some of the stories, and I'm going to try to get through quite a few of them today, and your comments will be welcome. Al Gore is back in the news this morning. And I have nothing but just... I despise that man. And he's set to meet with Hillary on various implementation plans for climate change or global warming, whichever you prefer to call that nonsense. And what really bothered me when I heard this story, various implementation plans. And I'm just telling you folks, don't listen to the hype. Don't listen to the politics of supposed climate change dangers. Listen to people that know. Listen to people that understand, and listen to verified scientists that are not buying into the cooling is good for us. No, it's not. It'll absolutely put agriculture on the cliff. It will absolutely hurt many, many areas of population all around the world. This is idiocy. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Mr. Bell, how are you this morning?
I'm not bad. Go ahead, sir.
I just wanted to let you know that it is great to hear your voice this morning. I was a very, very avid listener of yours over the last several years, but unfortunately I moved about 6 months ago, and where I moved to, we do not have anybody that comes close to as being professional and having a program like yours. And I'm just in town this morning, and I wanted to make sure I turned the radio on because I wanted to call you and tell you that I've missed you and missed your program. And the only thing I want to say this morning is you know how messed up the country is when we have our own politicians here in Idaho are actually coming out in a way and supporting a candidate that they totally disagree with every principle and everything that she has.
Right.
And I think it's just very, very disgusting, the whole country. The Republicans and the Democrats back in Washington all should be gathered up in a stockade somewhere, and they ought to shoot them all and get rid of all of them and get some decent people in there to lead the country.
You know, it's interesting that you should call, and I'll tell you why. Here about a week or so ago, I was kind of talking to my wife about certain individuals that we haven't heard from for quite a time on the air, and I mentioned you and your very distinct voice, and it really is a treat to hear you back on the program again. May I be so bold as to ask what area of the country you moved to?
I moved up to Caldwell.
I see. So you're in a bastion of liberalism up there.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny because in Canyon County, out where I live, there's a lot of conservatism out there. But then when you move just a little bit to the east, though, to the Boise area, then you really start running into the liberals.
May I suggest to you, sir, to turn your computer on if you have one and listen right there on zebbell.com. It'll explain how to get to the programming. We're heard all over the United States, all over the world, literally, and we'd invite you to do that and call us occasionally on the air. We'd love to hear from you.
Well, yeah, I'll sure do that because, like I say, it was real great. I took my grandkids to school this morning, and I made sure that I had my radio on at 8 o'clock to hear the beginning of the program because I just thoroughly enjoyed the 8 years that I lived in this area. I just enjoyed your program and Jerry Shaw's. You were the two people that I listened to all the time.
Well, God's blessings to you. Don't make yourself a stranger. Keep us informed how you're doing, and the very best to you, sir. And, you know, it's not too early to wish you, because I might not get a chance, Happy Thanksgiving and a Merry Christmas.
Well, no, the same to you, Mr. Bell. I appreciate everything, and like I say, you know, you've got a great program, and it's just too bad that a lot of people in the United States won't open their hearts up and listen to you because they could sure learn a lot and it would make a difference in the country.
Well, God bless you, sir, and please call again. Thank you so much.
I will. I'll start getting on the computer, and every so often I'll give you a buzz then.
I'll look forward to it. You be careful now. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Take care.
What a nice man. I wondered what happened to him. I hadn't heard from him for a long time. It was a blessing to hear from him. Don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. The number to call, 678-0459. They open the doors at 7:30 in the morning till 5 Monday through Friday. And they've got all your furnace filters. Now, you heard that weather forecast. Nice today, not too bad. A little bit cooler tomorrow, up in the 70s on Thursday, but then bam, it's going to start to drop a little bit. Well, be ready for the cooler, colder weather, and make sure your furnace is running efficiently. Stop in and check out the air filters at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. By the way, too, our thanks go out to Denny's Restaurant, and I'll give you a little bit of a tease here. We're going to have another gala Christmas extravaganza at Denny's coming up in December. Don't miss it. Denny's, of course, at 611 Overland in Burley, and another location at 291 Pole Line in Twin Falls. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, anytime, all the time. Great menu choices, delicious food, excellent people to serve you at Denny's Restaurant. America's Diner. You stop in and see them today. Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. All right, it's your turn. Give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, there are a lot of stories going around this morning about how the election, and I'm even hesitant to say this, because I don't want to stymie or stop anybody from going to the polls and voting. As a matter of fact, I want to encourage you more so now than ever. But there is a lot of talk going around that's been promoted and really led to the forefront by the liberals and the lefts and the Democratic Party that the election's over. It's a done deal. It's a slam dunk. We won. Go ahead and cry. That's what they're trying to promote this morning. Actually, they started this thing rolling yesterday. It's too late. You can't salvage anything. Donald Trump, no, with the problems with the GOP and the split in the GOP party, everybody's leaning towards Hillary. Wait a minute. It's still 28 days to the supposed coronation of our first queen, and I use those words loosely. And I think it's past time, for people to get up and really understand the issues. Now, Donald Trump is extremely brazen. Donald Trump is not a role model for your children. Donald Trump is not anything that you probably would put up on personality traits for a president that you would vote for. However, look at the other side with the evil that's going on with Hillary Clinton. She's evil, she's treacherous, and she's dangerous. And she's a liar. Even some of the people close to her that work with her and people that are managing her campaign have come out and said, yeah, she's a liar. She twists and distorts everything. And think about her attitude on open borders. Anybody come on? Why should we pay taxes? I'm just throwing this out to you. Why should we sit down and worry about paying our taxes when we are having a government that is welcoming in all the people from around the world with an open borders syndrome? Come on in! And we're footing the bill? Come on in, and we're not checking out who these people are? Come on in, and our economy, $20 trillion in debt? Why are we the dumb ones that are paying our taxes to support all those that are coming in, riding free on a float that says we're here and we ain't leaving and you can't do a thing about it? I'm really fed up with this because open borders, crime that comes along with those open borders, tens of thousands more refugees coming into this country. And don't give me this balderdash. You know, the amateur group there at the Times News and others at CSI, it's, oh, well, they're all vetted. We know exactly who they are. No, you don't, and don't lie to the American public. Tens of thousands of more refugees. And by the way, let me just back up here for a minute. In a speech that Hillary had given in 2013, and I've got the copy of it right here. And this was a story that was posted by Alex Pfeiffer of the Daily Caller and verified all the facts and everything. In a private speech in 2013, Hillary Clinton worried about the risk of jihadists entering Jordan with legitimate refugees because they can't possibly vet all the refugees. What did I say? A quote from her speech. They can't possibly vet all those refugees. Clinton today wants to increase the amount of Syrian refugees in the United States by taking in about 65,000. She believes that the United States refugee screening process is comprehensive enough. Now she's changed, if you noticed, to catch potential jihadists trying to enter the country. Even though the FBI has come out and said that the vetting process is severely limited by a lack of available data. Something we've said on this program for months. Calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'm going to do a quick commercial break. Call me then, please. Barry Equipment and Rental. Don't forget, South Lincoln and Jerome, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, and 159, I said it twice, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. They have a repair shop at the Burley location that's been remodeled and ready to serve you. They can fix anything from small engines to the big dudes, heavy equipment, and they've got all the equipment rentals, you know that, and they've got all the retail equipment sales, you know that, and they have the equipment to get the job done right. These are really knowledgeable and good people at Barry Equipment and Rental. Jerome, Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. You better believe it, they know what's going on. Oh, and by the way, too, I don't want to forget, I was in yesterday for another treatment at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Yes, I was. And yesterday was pool day. Yeah, the big whale was in the pool. And it really helps. I'm telling you, that hydrotherapy pool with the treadmill in the bottom, oh, man, I can honestly say there's been about if 80% difference in the betterment of my leg and the strength and everything. Oh, my, they've done a good job. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping me, and they can help you get back to being you. 678-1191, the number to call. 678-1191. Give them a call. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. I absolutely swear by those folks. They're good. Hey, by the way, we have a gentleman that is running for re-election for the Republican District 25 senatorial post, and that's my friend Jim Patrick. Jim is a fifth-generation Magic Valley resident, has served on the Agricultural, Education, and Business Committees, and also on the JFAC Committee, and he knows about all the water issues, and he understands what needs to be done in the state of Idaho. So remember, on November 8th, re-elect Republican Jim Patrick for District 25 Senator, paid for by Re-elect Patrick for Senator, Treasurer Jim Patrick. It's your turn. Now give me a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, you say those numbers every day for years and years and years, and then all of a sudden you have a little brain bubble. That's not what some people call it. And you can't remember the number. Anyway, we are 28 days away from this election. 28 days. And I think my biggest fear that I want to express to you is the severe changes that could take place to our Constitution. I am holding in my hand, if you can't see it at home on the cameras, because of the I'm on the internet and we have a couple of cameras here so you can see what's going on in the studio, etc., on zebbell.com. But I'm very, very worried about our First Amendment. I am extremely nervous about the revocation and realignment of our Second Amendment. And there are other changes I believe a very liberal Supreme Court will destroy forever in this country for our rights and our freedoms. And I just can't tell you how afraid I am. Deanna and I have talked about it many times in the last couple of months about Hillary and what she will do. She is way to the left of Barack Obama in what she wants to try to do, whether it's climate change, whether it's... And I've got a quote from her, I'll find it here in the next hour, hopefully, about how she really was advocating the Australian gun confiscation laws. All of us that are gun owners should be extremely concerned, scared, better word, and anybody and everybody out there that knows that they are the first line of defense for their family, and that's going to probably be taken away or scaled back with a Hillary election as the President of the United States. If you're not scared and you think that this is balderdash, another word could be used, that I'm throwing out this morning, go ahead. Call me. I'd like to discuss it with you. Because I'll guarantee you I have many, many fears as to what this woman will do. The Islamic Jihad movement, the problems that we have with ISIS, the cozying of her possible administration with ISIS, and more trade agreements that are going to help others more so than us. The list goes on and on. Let's not forget our friends at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Very, very, very nice people over there with Dr. Christine Pickup, and she is the doctor of audiology, and she can help you with your hearing needs. Having a little problem hearing? Well, it's not old age. It's not changes in your age. It might be something related to your medicine, something related to your health. Let them perform a hearing screening for you. Believe me, not going to hurt you. It's a lot of fun, really. 312-0957. That's the number to call. They're located right across from the Minidoka Hospital Emergency Room. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. You be sure and stop over there and say hello to those good folks. They can help you. By the way, too, don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric offering rebates on qualified Lennox home comfort systems. Whether it's a gas furnace, an air conditioner, or a heat pump, you and your family will enjoy the comfort. Call them at 678-0459. Ramsey Heating and Electric in Lennox, saving you money. All right, your turn, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'm a little hesitant to say this because I have a lot of friends that are in politics or have retired from politics that I have a lot of respect for. A lot of respect for. But I'm going to say this on a national level right now. I think the GOP, the grand old party, the Republicans, have turned into a Democratic and soon to be, I hope not, a Hillary lapdog. Where's the backbone? Where's the spine? You know, where's the people speaking out against what might happen in this country? Their fears, their concerns, you know, denigrating Planned Parenthood, denigrating abortion, denigrating the way the left wants to change everything and turn it into an absolutely immoral, filthy pit. And I'm going to stand behind those words, too. But why don't they stand up and just tell it like it is? So what if they jeopardize their House or their Senate seat? Stand up and tell the American people the truth. And whoa, maybe you might garner a whole bunch of support. But this being a lapdog and rolling over so somebody can scratch your belly, that's ridiculous. I was listening to a black woman this morning on television at about 4:30. And this gal is a firebrand. Whoa, you don't want to mess with her. She is a former staunch Hillary supporter. I mean, she admitted, I was all for Hillary and everything about Hillary and everything about the first woman being president. And I'm not now. Boy, she came out and blasted Hillary, her policies, her platform, her personality. And she said, she was asked the question, well, who do you think won the debate the other night? And she says, I think Trump wiped the floor up with Hillary. And he should have. You see, too many times I think we lump people into categories. And like, we'll get into the Black Lives Matter and another bad story about them, but this woman was really sharp and very outspoken, and I salute her for having the courage to stand up and tell it like it is. Too bad a lot of the GOP can't be the same way. Caller, I'm going to ask you to just bear with me just a moment. I've got to get a quick word in here for Ark Animal Hospital. These folks are wonderful. Man, they really care, and they have warm hearts for cold noses. I love that. They really take care of all your dogs, your kitty cats, your horses, and your cats. cattle. I'm telling you, it's a mixed animal practice, meaning big or small, they love them all. Absolutely. They're located at 750 21st Street in Heyburn. Ark Animal Hospital. Yep, warm hearts for cold noses. Good morning, caller, and thank you.
Hey, Steph, I hope you can hear me all right. When you're on the beat field. Anyway, what happened to the time? It used to be that you rode for the brand, and now you just jump ship if you don't like the way they part their hair. I am really concerned where our party's headed. I'm not so much concerned about the statewide, but I am concerned about our national people.
You know, I've got to tell you something, my dear friend. I was going to call you this morning at about 6 o'clock, honestly, because you were one of the people I was concerned. I didn't want to offend you when I said what I said just a few moments ago. I think the GOP has been like a dog that's been yelled at, and he ran and put himself under the porch. He's a coward. And that's the way I feel about the GOP on a national level this morning.
Well, Zeb, on your road, if you want to be a Republican, and they do because they think that, then ride for the brand. You don't just go into any herd there is. I am really frustrated with where we're at now. And I'm really more frustrated, some of our national people, people that have had good recognition, and now all of a sudden, these are the very same people that are out here wanting us to support the Republicans. I don't know how often you get a Republican bill in the mail.
Yep.
Wanting donations, they want it. Damn it, then ride for the brand.
You know, let me ask you a question, and your opinion means a lot to me because I've known you for so many years. But I really was offended, and I'm going to name names on this. I was offended because everybody said, well, Mike Simpson and Mike Crapo have disavowed any support for Donald Trump. They can't go along with what he said. Wait a minute, just a second. Wasn't it Mike Crapo that a couple of years ago had a problem with a DUI in Washington, D.C., and everybody was criticizing him and saying he should drop out? But no, I got on the air. I was supportive of him because of his politics, and I said that he needs to be reelected. What's the difference that he would turn tail on Trump right now?
That's the one thing that I cannot hardly stand the fact that Trump made those statements. But he's the man that we picked. We had a choice back. That wasn't who they took.
That's right.
Now let's stay with it. Don't be just jumping off and on the train. You can't believe how upset I get sometimes.
Well, I'll just say this, and I want your opinion on this. I have seen the demolition of the GOP to the point where, and I'm going to say this and correct me, that if they lose this election and really lose it big to the Democrats, and the whole party is fractured with Ryan and others, I think we have seen the demise of the two-party system in the United States. Go ahead and tell me I'm wrong.
Well, Zeb, I don't know how that's going to play out, but I can tell you, when you got a organization that's fractured like this, it's pretty darn hard to pull it together. And what alternative do you have right now?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. We don't have any alternatives. But now you, as a staunch leader in our state for many years, look at what's going on with her open stand on borders, no restrictions, her attitude on crime, it's the police's fault, her attitude on the refugees, we're going to take 5 to 6 times more, higher taxes, more problems with the Supreme Court. I mean, how can this country absorb that kind of liberalism in the next election?
Well, and I guess that's the thing that frustrates me about as much as anything, Zeb, is that we know what we're getting with her. There is no question about that. With him, there is a possibility. I realize that he's an unknown, and that's what we voted on. We were sick and tired of the old boy club. I shouldn't say that. I'm one of them, Zeb. You better hang up on me.
I'd never hang up on you. You know, let me ask you this, though, real quick, Bert, and then I've got to get a commercial in here. You know, this woman called us, the conservatives that were supporting Trump because we can't abide by the left liberal stance of Hillary, deplorables. She called us deplorables and irredeemable. What about healing the divide in this country? How is she going to go about that?
Well, the one thing that worries me is that because of everybody's mad at Trump, everybody's going to get on her little wagon, and she becomes the queen.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
She won't be the president. She'll be the queen. We'll be back to a dictatorship.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something, the stretching of the executive powers, and a lot of people that are much smarter than I am that study this every day that I talk to occasionally on the phone, they said that if you think we've seen the abuse of power with Obama, they said you ain't seen nothing yet.
Well, and can you imagine Mr. her husband? He'll be there coaching her all the way how to do it. And I'm really worried where we're at with this country.
I really appreciate your friendship, and your service to this great state of Idaho. Thank you so much, Bert. God bless you, man. Thanks.
Well, Zeb, I've been really fortunate to have the privilege of living in this community the past 80 years, and I can tell you that it's somewhat disheartening to see us headed down the way we're headed.
I agree. Well, please call in more often. Thank you so much, Bert.
Well, I'm always a little reluctant to call in on this newfangled. I hope you can hear it all.
I can, and you came through loud and clear. The very best to Elaine and yourself, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
All righty. Thank you. Thank you. That's a man that served our state for many, many years, and I'm very proud to say he's one of my very best friends. I call him on many occasions to get advice and to ask about different issues, and that's former Representative Bert Stevenson, and I have nothing but the highest regard for him and his wife. Very, very good people. Time for the weather. I've got to get it in, and it's brought to you by the Urgent Cares, and we're very blessed to have three of them: Riverview Urgent Care in Burley, Twin Falls Urgent Care in Twin, Jerome Urgent Care in Jerome. And go to their website and find out more about them, urgentcareofidaho.com. And don't forget all your flu shots at the Urgent Cares. Minor emergencies, major care. They can take care of you, and they will. You be sure and stop in and see them today. Right now, here's Scotty with the weather.
Well, good Tuesday morning. Scotty Cameron in for your Zeb at the weather forecast. Gina Jameson is out today. Well, looks like we're going to see some sun, going to be blowing a little bit as well. Highs are only going to reach around 63 with wind gusts around 33 miles per hour. Now, tonight, you're going to want to cover your tomatoes. There is a freeze warning in effect. Lows are going to be around 32 as the skies clear off. Then for tomorrow, expecting some sunshine. Highs around 63, clear for tomorrow night, lows of 39. Then for Thursday, mostly sunny, highs around 70 as we go into the weekend, looking for some rain as things are going to be cooling off again during the weekend. That is your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. I'm Scotty Cameron.
Scotty, good job, buddy, and it's good to hear from you, too. Thank you very much for the weather. Brought to you this hour by Riverview Urgent Care in Burley, Twin Falls Urgent Care in Twin, and Jerome Urgent Care in Jerome. Minor emergencies, major care. Stand by, caller. I'll be right there. Don't forget, Ramsey Heating and Electric is offering rebates, love that word, on qualified Lennox home comfort systems. Whether it's a gas furnace, air conditioner, a heat pump, whatever, you and your family will enjoy the comfort. Call them today at 678-0459 and learn how Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox can save you money. Thank you for your call. Go ahead, please. And they're backing up. Call back, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. A lot of people out in the audience, they may be really mad at me right now. And I can't win on this situation, really. And nor do I want to try. I'm not in this business to make friends. I'm not in this business to have everybody go, oh, I love old Zeb. No, I'm in this business to tell the truth and to hopefully be some kind of a lightning rod of providing the information that you need to know, whether it's political or whatever. I am absolutely adamantly against anything to do with the liberal left. I refuse to adhere to any of their policies or to help in any way, shape, or form. But I'm also very much opposed to the weak-kneed, no backbone of the GOP. Now, that hurts some people's feelings. And I can imagine some of them, whether they're out on a tractor or whether they're driving a truck or whether they're at their office, they're damning me right now. That's completely up to you. You go right ahead. But you got to start showing some backbone in leadership for this country. I don't care if it's on a state level. I think that we have some of the best, and I've said this many times on the program before, and I'm going to stand behind it. We have some of the best legislators of any state in the United States. We do, on a state level. But why, when we send people back to the Potomac, and I don't care if it's from Arkansas, California, Idaho, wherever, we're not seeing the bang for our buck? I really believe that. En masse, the Senate and now the House, I think, are cowardly and not standing up for principles against the liberal left. You know, I think back, and you can remember this, when the Republicans heard that Donald Trump was going to run for president, they were so afraid that he would run on the independent ticket that they made him sign the pledge, basically, of allegiance to the Republican Party. Where's the reciprocity in that from the party back to him? Where is it? Oh, well, you're saying, oh, yeah, but you can't support that man. Look at this. He's done that. He said this. Wait a minute. They signed a pledge. And one side of the pledge has bailed out of the boat and they're swimming to shore to save their own skins. That's the GOP. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I would really like to hear somebody out there representing the Republican Party to call me right now and tell me I'm wrong. Go ahead. I welcome the call. I'll sit and listen very quietly, up to a point. You know, I got to tell you this story. This is a little bit on a lighter note, but I've got probably, oh my goodness, 100 or so pictures up on my wall in this office of all the things that I've done in my life and my career, and all the people I've worked with, the different singers and entertainers and movie actors and people in politics, etc. But one picture that's up on my wall is with the Bellamy Brothers, you know, the country music act, and they've won numerous awards for their songs, etc., over the many years. Well, this morning, my wife and I were in the bedroom getting dressed, and all of a sudden on television, here came the Bellamy Brothers. And they were on Fox and Friends this morning. The reason I'm chuckling is because when they introduced them and I said, holy buckets, do they ever look old? Well, then I went in the office and I looked up at the picture of myself with the Bellamy Brothers at a couple of events, one being in particular Bakersfield, California. And holy cow, we all look very old. I'm looking at the brothers and their mustaches and their dark hair, and then I'm looking at me in the middle and of a picture that we had taken up on stage with the dark mustache and the darker hair. It ain't like that anymore. We got a lot of gray. I guess we've all aged, and my wife poignantly pointed that out to me. Calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'd like to hear what you have to say about any of the topics that we've talked about this morning. One thing that I'm really upset about is the Black Lives Matter. I have no time, or do I want to take the time to ever give any good story about them, because I think it's a waste of time. Well, the University of California, Irvine Black Student Union held a protest last Friday calling for a total and complete ban on the UC Irvine Police Department. I'm not going to read you what they said on some of their signs in regards to the police. Some were called Blue Lives Don't Matter. Blue lives don't matter. Protesters held blood-spattered signs that said, "Blue lives don't matter." In a video obtained by Campus Reform, protesters can be heard ranting and chanting, "Rise up, resist, put those killer cops in jail. The whole damn system is guilty as hell," as they marched around campus. And they were preaching and yelling for down with the police brutality, etc. And then again, I can't even repeat some of the slogans that they were chanting and saying and had on signs. You know, is this really what our country is coming to? A total lack of respect? And I think about Colin Kaepernick, basically the figurehead of stupidity and nonsense, when he decided that he was going to side with the Black Lives Matter and, take a knee during our national anthem. Here is a punk kid that's never had to serve and fight for our country, and he denigrates the flag and respect for the flag by taking a knee at the same time he's getting paid $15 million a year to sit his fat butt on the bench and do nothing really except go team go. And I was shocked when I heard the comments of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Yes, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Supreme Court Justice, when she spoke out on this issue. And even though she is so liberal and so left on the Supreme Court, her and I agree when she spoke out about Colin Kaepernick and others sitting or kneeling during the anthem. She said they are stupid and dumb. They are. But I also want to say something bothered me last night. I got to get this in real quick. But something else bothered me last night is that we're seeing somewhat of a trend, and I hope it stops, for networks at the beginning of games to disavow or put commercials over our national anthem. And if anybody noticed it last night during the opening of the Cubs and the Giants game, they ran double the amount of commercials, and then the network segued right to the game as the start of the game with the first pitch. They did not cover the national anthem. I was offended by that. But on the bright side of things, I caught the first opening of the Carolina Panthers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last night. And the reason I bring it up is I was so proud of the black football players that chimed in and were singing along with our national anthem, which gives us hope that there are still a lot of good people out there, and we can't segregate people into certain groups. Caller, I've only got about a minute, so go real fast.
Okay, I'd just like to say I am glad that this deal came out about Trump, because now we have a chance to put this thing to bed, and people really will know what kind of person he is. If people judge me from what I was 20 years ago or 30 years ago or whatever, so be it. It's what you are now. And you know, in your congregation, in your church, you have seen people's lives change. Isn't that right, Seth?
You know, we're all chameleons to an extent that we change every day or try to change. And far be it from me to criticize anybody or anything that was said 11, 12, 20, 30 years ago. I've got enough skeletons in my own closet, and I can't do that to somebody else.
Well, you know, the neat thing about it, since this has come out, since the debate and everything, I am just appalled at how many women are coming out in favor of Trump.
Yeah. Keith, I got to run.
Get out of the closet and let's tell it like it is. And I'll tell you what, I seen a poll on Fox this morning that showed Hillary at 46 and Trump at 43.
Okay.
So 11 points yesterday.
Yeah. I appreciate your call, buddy. Buddy, listen, I got to run to the news. I got to get a commercial, and I hate to be rude, but thank you very much for your call. Appreciate it.
Yeah, bye-bye.
All right, buddy. Thanks a lot. I didn't want to seem like I was cutting him off, but I guess I was. I've got to get this spot in for our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, my goodness, they are the best. And 7 locations to serve you with a big fall tire sale going on right now. And don't forget, they've got tires like the Ultra Z900 for your cars on sale. Tires like the Open Country MT on sale right now for your pickups and SUVs. You can save money and drive a lot of miles with a smile on your face, knowing you've got the best in tires for your vehicle. Also, stop in, check out all the brake service. Excellent brake service for you. Professionally trained technicians and the brake industry's best warranty. Shocks and struts, front end alignments, batteries, all of this with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, Daniel on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley, the best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Old Wheels is going to play a little music right now. Going up to news from CBS. We'll be back in about 7 minutes. Good morning, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Always at your disposal. Get on the route service and wave goodbye to your garbage every week. I'm telling you what, they are so good, so efficient, so friendly, and absolutely a service you can't be without. Always at your disposal. Call them today. Get on the route service, Western Waste Services, 734-6969. Want to remind you, too, about our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox, offering rebates on qualified Lennox home comfort systems. Whether it's a gas furnace, air conditioner, or a heat pump, you and your family will enjoy the comfort. Call them at 678-0459 and learn how Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox can save you money. Real quick, before we get our guest on the phone this morning, I want to remind you about our friends over at Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. It's a subject nobody wants to talk about, but it's a part of life. And when there's the passing of a loved one, Hanson Mortuary, Joel Hewitt, his staff, and his family, they are there to serve you. Please call them today for pre-planning and understanding of what needs to be done for funerals. They can help, and they will help, always with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity. 436-5636, Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. I got to tell you, folks, I've made a lot of friendships over the years. And this next gentleman is truly one of my best friends. I know he's going to be there if I need him. I know he's going to be there to talk to if I need him, and vice versa. And I say, welcome back to Frosty Woolridge, my dear friend. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb and Deanne, and everyone listening. It's just a pleasure to be back with you and back at you. Our friendship has grown deep, and it's wide, and it's warm. It's special, and I am so
totally delighted that we have created such a bond over the years. And, really, and with the entire Zeb at the Ranch radio listening audience, I know that everyone listening, you're all making a difference. You're all being part of literally saving America, and hopefully we see more and more of that in the coming months. So I'm thrilled to be back. It's been an extraordinary adventure since last May. And, Zeb, I love you, man. That's all there is to it.
Well, my wife and I feel the same way back to you and your lovely wife, and I want to get right into a little bit about what I heard the other day. When Sandy called me, she said that you were, I believe, back in Dearborn, Michigan, and boy, that's not a good area to go to. What was your reasoning for being there, and what did you find out?
Well, the biggest key was I traveled to see my brother Rex at the farm there in Michigan and work on the farm and work on the house there, and we're actually going to turn it into a cross-country ski retreat and an Airbnb for the summer. So our farm is an 80-acre farm with a small lake on it, with beautiful woods and beautiful trails, cross-country ski trails. We also have deer hunting up there, which is going on right now. And it's untouched, and it's out in the wilds of Michigan, south of Cadillac, Michigan, and it's really a bucolic location and place. It's hardwood trees, we've got maples, and I've got 3 giant bags, actually, of apples from the apple trees on the farm, and so really was helping Rex with that. But my other main reasoning was to go visit Minneapolis, St. Paul with the 100,000 Somali immigrants and what that looked like. I also went into Chicago to see what that looked like, and the big one was to go into Dearbornistan, Michigan, and actually see for myself what was going on with somewhere around 300 to 400,000 Muslim immigrants that have now virtually taken over and are now the dominant force in Detroit, Michigan. So it was an investigative tour, and boy, oh boy. Let me tell you, it's pretty disconcerting to see an American city turn into a foreign city where the mosques are like 60, 70 yards long in their giant compounds, and they look like fortresses. On the Ford Road and Joy Road and Schaefer, I saw these mosques, and you see all these women in burqas. Even when they come over here, they're now free to be women with personalities and faces to see the world. But instead, the dominance of the male and the religion called Islam and the Quran will not allow women any women's rights. And so I saw them all in their black burqa tunics or whatever you want to call them, walking up and down the streets. And, of course, you know that 9 out of 10 of them are on welfare. They just simply don't produce anything. And in fact, the 1 out of 10 that actually does anything are shop owners. And so they just sell goods. And so it was pretty sobering. And then all the signage along like Joy Road, Warren Road. I mean, I used to work in Detroit, and Dearborn. I know it very well. I worked there for 15 years in my summer trucking for United Van Lines. And now it's literally turning into a city where Muslims dominate, prayer rugs, mosques, women in burqas, the men are all wearing beards, the Islamic beard, and all of that. And literally, Detroit, Michigan is being transformed into a caliphate for Islam. And I'll tell you, when you see some of these mosques, they're multi-million-dollar mosques, and I can really say this, they look like fortresses, they look like forts. And as anyone who's ever read any of my work, they're territorial markers, and they mark their territory, and they're quite intimidating. And so that's what I went on that trip for, and I've got 10 new articles to write about that I've just new ideas from my experiences. So that was the reason for that trip.
Frosty, may I ask at this juncture of your conversation, you talk about what you saw, You talk about what they were wearing and the attitude of them. However, what was the attitude and the personality of us, our people, that have been encroached upon by the Muslims into their area? What is their attitude? What are their thoughts? And what did they tell you?
Well, to tell you the truth, Detroit is around, it's about 80%, it's 80% African American and now Muslim American. And stopping in the gas stations and going to the grocery stores and everything, it was like being in a foreign country. I didn't really get a chance to talk to any Caucasian Americans because they pretty much have fled. I think you all know that between 1975 and the year 2010, when I wrote that Tragedy of Detroit piece, Detroit was, I think, third or fourth largest city in the United States. And it had 1.85, that's 1.85 million, that's 1,850,000 residents in this booming city at one time. And it's now down to 648,000. So as you can imagine, with somewhere around 400,000 Muslims that have been injected into the city, it's become Hamtramck's totally Muslim. And Dearbornistan is pretty much Muslim. So there's not too much of a chance to talk to real Americans. You're only talking to foreigners. And for those of you who don't know this, places like New York City, almost 40% of New York City is foreign-born, and there are 800 different languages in New York City being spoken every day on the streets. And, of course, in Dearborn, Arabic is the main speaking language right now. And so it's pretty sobering to see this stuff, to see your own country change and see a city that I worked in for 15 years completely be transformed, or I would say deformed, into a third world country.
You know, let me progress on to today and the problems that we're seeing with this election. And I'm going to be very blunt. You've written somewhat about it already, and I really commend you on your fine articles. I am so afraid of what's happening with the refugee program. I am so afraid with Hillary's open border campaign if she's elected. I am so afraid about having tens of thousands of more refugees coming in from Syria that will not be vetted. We don't know who they are. Anybody that says any different is lying. What are your thoughts after you toured this area, saw what they have done and what the area has become, and think about literally hundreds of thousands of more coming in to take over various communities?
Well, for any of you who want to have read this piece that I wrote, it's called Impossible to Vet the Minds of 110,000 Syrian Muslims. And I heard this particular interview on David Muir, ABC anchor, Wednesday, September 14th, and he reported Barack Obama successfully imported 11,000 Syrian refugees into America in 2016. He expects to import a total of 110,000 in 2017 with Hillary's election to the White House. The fact remains, you cannot vet the mind of a Muslim. Such a mind feeds on the terrorist handbook, the Quran. That book compels its followers to, and I quote, convert or kill all non-believers, unquote. That's the prime directive of Islam. So as I read some of the things going across the country this summer, I think you already have some events and some issues right there in Twin Falls with those immigrants that have come in already. And I absolutely projected that on your show.
That's right.
I've written it in my articles. And the key fact is none of those people, whether it's David Muir or Barack Obama, who has his kids in private schools, same with David Muir, or if he has any kids, I'm not even sure he's married. But what happens is Hillary Clinton has armed compounds that guard her gates so she never has to touch or be a part of. Same with John McCain, same with Charles Schumer, same with Feinstein and Boxer out of California. They never have to deal with all of these third world immigrants who have this really violent terroristic religion called Islam that's proven itself time and time again, whether it was Orlando or whether it was Fort Hood or whether it was Bernardino or whether it was the Boston Marathon or 9/11 or certainly Chattanooga, Tennessee. We are going to have more victims because you cannot vet the minds of Muslims because they are totally brainwashed toward violence. They train kids from the age of 10 to become suicide bombers, and girls become suicide bombers. And while I was in Ohio, another honor killing, a father shot I think she was 16 years old.
Oh, no.
And I think the reason was she was wearing jeans or she had spoken up. He shot her in the head twice while she slept in Ohio. And I'm not sure, I can't remember the city, but it was all over the press. And that's what we're going to see more and more often as we, if we allow this incredible armada of 110,000 more, and that's not even counting the mass amnesty, because if she gets elected, will absolutely have the support of the 51% of the Americans who don't have a brain in their head. She will give amnesty, work for amnesty for these anywhere from 20 to 31 million, and those are solid numbers, 20 to 31 million. And culture, I estimated 20 million in my book, America on the Brink, and she, with her book, Adios America, estimated through census figures and so forth, 31 million illegal aliens in America. And Center for Immigration Studies, ladies and gentlemen, Steve Camarada is brilliant. Dr. Steve Camarada for Center for Immigration Studies in Krikorian, he studied and investigated the illegal flow into the country right now because the borders are wide open, and Barack Obama is directing our 16,000 border patrols not to do anything, is 500,000 a year. And that was in 2014. 500,000 illegals got into the U.S., and 2015, 500,000, and we're on course to have another 500,000 illegals come in again this year. And anywhere from 35 to 40% of the illegals come from visa overstays. And for anyone who wants to understand what's coming at us, I have my latest column is in newswithviews.com. Go down 3 or 4 paragraphs there, and you'll see a piece called Deadliest Birth Rate for All Humanity, and this week's was India. And it shows you we're actually being chain migrated literally by Indians coming from the subcontinent because they are growing no less than 16 million net gain per year. They can't feed them. They can't provide jobs. They can't provide anything. And so they are chain migrating into America at hundreds of thousands each year. And so, as you can imagine, we're absorbing somewhere around 1.2 million legal immigrants and 500,000 illegal immigrants. That's 1.7 million more people added to America every year. No wonder we can't provide jobs for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, poor white Americans, and we're seeing unbelievable consequence in the cities. I drove my car through Chicago and Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Detroit, and it's just bumper to bumper to bumper at 1 to 5 miles an hour. So this is what we're going to see if Hillary Clinton gets into the White House. It's going to expedite. It's going to accelerate with her being in the White House.
And really, when you think about it, Frosty, and I wish we had a full hour instead of a half hour to welcome you back this morning, but I want you to address this point. You and I, we both stand with tears in our eyes in salute and reverence to our great United States of America and our American flag. But on the other hand, I'm almost ready to say I'm not going to advocate paying taxes to this country if Hillary gets in, where she's bringing in all these refugees or letting our borders be porous enough to anybody come on in anytime you want to. Why should we pay taxes and have everybody living off our dime? Address that, and then we'll take a call.
Well, as you can see from the series, the 4-part series, that is now in that second part at newswithviews.com, there are 80 million new refugees born into the world every year. and there's no end to the line. And so no matter how many refugees we take, no matter how many Canada takes, no matter how many Europe takes, or even Australia or any first world country, there's still 80 million more refugees every year. That is a reality that no one wants to talk about. And so whether you have a guy like Kaepernick and some of those people on the football fields that are standing down, sitting down, kneeling, and disrespecting our flag, even the Supreme Court Justice Ginsburg said that Kaepernick was dumb and that it was a dumb act and very foolish. I forget all the rest of the words, but she did say it was dumb. But that's the problem. We are literally fomenting internal conflict with our own citizens who aren't really loyal, true blue American citizens. And in fact, Kaepernick is a biracial kid, and he just doesn't have the GQ to understand the consequences of his actions to create conflict against his own country, our country, the one we're all in this thing together, and to disrespect our flag, to disrespect our national anthem. That's not going to work well in the coming months and years. And again, if Hillary gets in, she's going to accelerate that internal conflict so much so that you're going to see the same things happening here at a greater speed as they're also now happening in Europe as they keep importing all of those Muslims into Europe.
Frosty, real quick, we have a telephone call. Caller, real fast. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Zeb, I just wanted to comment on this Dearborn, Michigan deal. It scares the living heck out of me. I wonder if Frosty knows how many of them are on the total dole.
Okay, we'll ask him on the air. Thank you, Keith. Appreciate it. Frosty, what's your estimate when you talk to people and when you went through the area? What about us, the taxpayers, funding those people because they don't have jobs, they don't have housing, they can't pay for it, etc.? How much of that is all coming out of our pockets, be it Social Security, welfare programs, whatever?
According to the economist Edward Rubenstein, each year across 15 federal agencies, we are paying out $346 billion, $346 billion a year. And that particular study by the economist Rubenstein was about 5 or 6 years ago. So it's probably more than that right now. I would say it's probably closer to $400 billion a year. So no matter, at the minimum, it's $346 billion. We still have 48 million Americans and immigrants on food stamps. We still have 350,000 anchor babies being born each year by illegal aliens who come in here pregnant, and they even have websites to get them here. Chinese are coming in with pregnant to get an anchor baby. The Indians are coming in pregnant with the anchor baby, and so are the Mexicans, so are the Central Americans, so are the South Americans. So you're seeing the United States is simply being cut by 1,000 cuts, 1 million cuts, millions of cuts, and we're getting bled to death financially. You also know that $80 billion a year is sent out of our country in cash transfers. And so you literally, we are paying for everybody else in the world to use us for their own reasons, and there's no end to the line, and there's no solving what they created for themselves, unsustainable societies. And that's what you're seeing happening, all flooding into our country for a better life. But it's a guaranteed fact. I mean, we're $20 trillion in debt. And John Adams said, the second president of the United States, there are two ways to conquer a nation, by the sword and by debt. Well, we're well on our way right now to internal conflict and certainly a debt that's going to absolutely implode our entire economic system, Zeb.
You know, Frosty, I wished I could take another call. I wished I had more time, but I'm out of time, and I want to say simply, welcome back. God's blessings to you. I cannot wait to have you back on the air next week. Frosty Woldridge, Golden, Colorado, my dear friend. I feel like we put another piece of the puzzle back together again. Thanks for being here this morning.
God bless and thank you so much, Zeb.
All right, buddy. Take care. Frosty Woolridge, and to the callers that were waiting, I'm sorry. I just flat ran out of time. I'm sorry I couldn't get you on. Want to remind you, too, about some of our great friends that are running for public office, and we want to say thank you very much to a man that wants to have a re-election again for the senatorial seat in District 25, that is, Jim Patrick. Re-elect Republican for District 25 Senator Jim Patrick, fifth-generation Magic Valley resident, and he was a local farmer for over 40 years and a banking director for over 20 years, and a man that served on the Agricultural, Education, and Business Committees and also on the JFAC Committee. He understands the issues and can help all of us. Don't forget, when you go to the polls November 8th, re-elect Republican for District 25 Senator Jim Patrick, paid for by re-elect Jim Patrick for Senator, paid for Treasurer Jim Patrick. Also, I want to remind you real quick before we cancel or go on to our next guest. I'm kind of stumbling here. I dropped all the papers on the floor. Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Every morning when we start things off at, of course, 8:06, we have our weather forecast brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. For all your carpet, flooring, kitchen construction, whatever you need to make your house a home. Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Look for the blue door. Really, really good, folks. Let's see. Also, Let's Ride. My goodness sakes, yes, I want to remind you quickly. Let's Ride at 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. Oh, my goodness. They've got all the four-wheelers and the side-by-sides, the 2016 models on a closeout price you can't afford to pass up. The new 2017s are on the way in. And you'd better get over there and check out the four-wheelers, check out all the accessories, check out the great service department. If you need something fixed, they can handle it. Open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6. And again, it's Let's Ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. This is where the fun is sold. Really good, folks. And in just a moment, we're going to have Susan Swift on the program with us this morning, and I always look forward to having Susan on the air. I want to remind you, too, about our friends over at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Need a recliner? Well, I'll tell you what, you better get in and try one on. What do you mean, try one on? Well, all of us are a little different. Some are tall, some are short, some are thin, and some aren't. Like me, well, I'll tell you what, you'd better get in there and try on a recliner. They've got all the recliners, great selection, and the lift recliners, too, along with all the entertainment stands, dining room sets, bedroom sets, all the mattresses. Yes. Beautify and make your home very comfortable by stopping into Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. Right now, I say good morning to a lovely lady that has been on our program many times in the past. And what is it, Wheels?
Oh, I was just going to say, sir, I had to get a different number from the lady at the front desk. And so I was giving Susan a call right now because the main number was going to another lady.
Okay, and so you're going to get her and let me know when you get her on the phone, okay?
Yes,
all right.
I have her on the phone right now. So
oh, you do? Well, I'll tell you what, I'm just going to quickly give this commercial, and I'll welcome her to the program. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Oh, boy, think about life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, and we all should, to make sure that we've got everything protected. They can help, and they will help. They're dedicated and responsive to your needs. Call for an appointment today, 436-4424, Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. You be sure and give them a call today. Right now, a lovely lady, former actress, and my goodness, she's done a host of things. She is involved in helping protect the freedoms of our country right now, and a very outspoken lady with all that's going on in politics today. Good morning, Susan Swift. Nice to have you back.
Thank you so much for bringing me back, Zeb. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Susan, I don't mince many words on this program. I'm really blunt. I think we're in a great big bunch of doo-doo. I see nothing good coming out of this election. I see absolutely a more than 90% chance that we're going to be stuck with Hillary. I see all the demise of the GOP, a bunch of weak-kneed, no-backbone people standing up for their person, Donald Trump. Holy cow, clean this mess up for me today. What do you think?
Well, I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you. I'm nervous as well. I think that's what got a lot of Americans upset and worried, because I think what we're seeing is the media's version of what they want us to see. I noticed right after the debate, immediately following the second debate, and Trump owns that night. He did a phenomenal job. He actually appeared to have gone back to the table and listened to people who were advising him. He stayed in control. He stayed measured. He didn't ramble too very much. And he, as one of my friends on Twitter had remarked to me, he beat Hillary like a rented mule. He did a fabulous job putting facts to her lies. And that, I don't think we have seen yet the polls post-debate. So we're waiting to see what the effect of the poll of the debate was on the polling. What we are seeing now, I believe, are pre-debate polling results, and that would reflect on the soundbite that Washington Post released. And yeah, it's upsetting, but it's, that's the culture that we're living in. We every day we have what is called entertainment put up on our screens and put in front of our children of kids, Miley Cyrus twerking and tweaking and grinding, and we've got Madonna grabbing her crotch, and we've got things that pass for entertainment are not considered inappropriate by the media, and yet this very same media and the Democrats are now holier than thou hypocrites and pointing out that, yeah, he said a bad word and he was bragging about grabbing women. And, yeah, we all knew this. We all knew this about Trump. We all knew this going in. And for everyone to start acting surprised now, it reminds me of, just the hypocrites that they are. He's not my first choice, my second choice, or my third choice. But the bottom line, at the end of the day, Trump is the only choice we have if we want to stop Hillary. But it's true. And the choice that we have is between a liar who has deleted emails, who has ignored the cries and the pleadings of people in Benghazi, our ambassador and brave men in Benghazi, to let them die. She's deleted emails possibly to cover up that fact. She might be in coordination with the Department of Justice over that. There's many questions concerning her behavior, and especially going back to how she treated women when her husband was assaulting them. So we have an enabler. We have a liar. We have someone who is destroying evidence. And the only thing to stop her is a somewhat vulgar businessman. And so we've all got to stop wringing our hands and feigning shock. And we have to get very, very focused on the future of our country and what we can do to stop what Hillary will do if she gets into office.
Wow, and I agree with everything you said. But now let me ask you another question regarding the grand old party, the Republicans. They have, in my opinion, Susan, turned and run under the porch like an old hound dog that got whipped one too many times. They haven't shown any spine. They haven't shown any backbone. They made Trump sign a pledge that he would stay with and honor the auspices of the Republican Party when he started running. He signed it. Now they, in turn, have turned their backs on him and run away and have absolutely abandoned the party and abandoned anybody that wants to support Trump and all the so-called deplorables. This party is in a shambles. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. And Andrew Breitbart was the one that said that first we're going to have to defeat the GOP before we can fix our country. It's not a direct quote, but that's what he had to say. He realized that the rhinos, that means Republican in name only, they've infiltrated what once was the Grand Old Party, and the Grand Old Party has moved away from conservatism. I've been left on the right, and I'm so far right now I'm considered to be wrong because my own party has abandoned me. And we've seen in the midterm elections that people are furious with the status quo and rhinoism in government, and they're demanding that Republicans stand up and do something. And I think the ire of Americans is rightly placed on the rhinos and in the GOP because they're the ones who are betraying what they said they would do. One thing, which is always true, you can bank on Hillary. You know what she's going to do. She's promising to put liberals on the Supreme Court and to stack liberals in all of the district courts. She is promising to repeal Citizens United, which gives corporations the right to contribute money to campaigns. She is promising to extend Roe versus Wade even farther. She will deliver. She will absolutely deliver on that. The problem is we keep telling the GOP to stop it, and they don't have the guts to stand up to Obama or Hillary. And what we're seeing is their very typical behavior. They're running from a fight. They've been doing that for years. That's what Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan have been doing. They run from a fight. They talk big, and then they run and hide, just like you said, Jeb. And a lot of people are furious and sick about it. That's why Trump is so popular, because he is an outsider. And I think his candidacy and rise in the polls show how furious and how frustrated most Americans in the GOP are, that our elected officials are not doing what they said. So now you're saying, all right, fine, we're going to go with some guy he's been a Democrat, now he says he's a Republican, but he says he'll get the job done, and he says he loves America, and yeah, he's crude and boorish and rude. He sounds just like the guys in the Democrat Party, like Bill Clinton. He sounds just like them. Maybe he can take them on for us. And I think we're seeing everybody just furious with the status quo and furious with the GOP and the betrayal of our values. And that's why I think Trump is for better or worse, he is the chosen person to stop Hillary Clinton and stop the feckless GOP who will not do the job we've sent them to do.
Absolutely. Boy, I absolutely agree with you. We have a caller with a quick question. Go ahead, caller, please. You're on the air.
Yes, yesterday I tried to call in our illustrious Senator Crapo, who I like, but he seems to be a weakling. And then we got Mike Simpson, congressman, who we never hear a word from this guy, and he never does a damn thing, and he's a citizen of Washington, D.C., and he'll never move back to Idaho. And I tried to call them both because over the weekend, both of them drew back their support for Trump. And I thought, well, when you abandon Trump, you abandon me, you abandon Idaho, you abandon my business and my family. And I just was furious. So I kept trying yesterday to get in. And I know how to get in. I call back there all the time. Whether or not it does any good, I don't know. But I continue to do it. And this morning I finally got in, and I let them know how I felt, because hopefully if you scream loud enough, they might actually remember your call. But I hope they got pelted yesterday. But does it mean anything? I don't know. But I know that it's therapeutic for me. I'll hang up. Thanks.
How would you respond to that caller, Susan? Go ahead, please.
Boy, I sure understand and feel exactly what he feels. But something occurred to me when he was talking. You know what's really, really important? If Trump is elected, I still think it's Hillary's to lose, and I know that Trump is fighting to defeat her. I hope he does. If he is elected, every senator and every House member who are Republicans have to be there too. If we as voters slit our own throats by throwing these worthless, fraidy cat Republicans under the bus like they deserve, and yeah, they do deserve, the ones who are cutting and running, especially in states, if the state of Idaho, and I don't have the figures in front of me, if the state of Idaho did support Trump and he was their choice for president, then the representatives in the GOP should honor that choice of the people and shouldn't run. And if they do, the problem is we want to punish them. We want to punish the GOP. A lot of people are saying, you know what, let it burn, let it go. I'm sick of this. Let's show these people what we mean, and we'll punish the GOP and take away their power. Well, you know what that's going to do? That's going to hurt our country, because then Democrats will win a majority in the House and maybe even the Senate. If the Senate goes back to Democrat control, I mean, Harry Reid, can we all agree we don't want that again? The destruction will be magnified. Even if Hillary is elected, which I hope she's not, it is absolutely vital that we hold the line and that we have the Senate and the House. At least then we have a chance at some substantial gridlock. And yes, we can continue yelling at our representatives saying, you must oppose Hillary if she is elected. But if we get furious and angry and refuse to vote down ballot because we're angry about the way that either Trump has acted with his vulgarity, if we're angry about the way that some of the people in Washington are being afraid and refusing to support Donald Trump, if we do that, we are going to be cutting our nose off to spite our face, and what we're going to end up doing is handing the White House to Hillary and handing the Senate and the Congress to the Democrats. And can you imagine what she would do if she had the power of both houses? So everybody, I feel so passionate about this, and I am furious. I wish we had a more congenial candidate to run against Hillary. But you know what? He's a fighter, and he's a scrapper. He's from New York, and he gets in a fight, and he fights dirty, and he fights to win. And you know what? I would rather have him in the White House than Hillary, and we're going to need to back him up with, even if we have spineless wonders on the GOP side, that's better than having Democrats in the House and the Senate. We're going to have to hang tough, and we're going to have to hold our nose and vote for people down ballot. Otherwise, we will lose this nation. And everybody's got to get to that point. This isn't about, I'm sorry, this is starting to affect me. This isn't about our own personal preferences. This isn't about what we would like or our dreams or even our hopes and aspirations for a kinder, gentler America. Right now, we are fighting for the existence of America. We are on the ropes, and we must defend the concept of our Constitution and our representation in our government. We must fight to preserve our conservative beliefs in the Constitution. We don't have the luxury of the perfect candidate anymore. Not even in the Senate, not in the House. We don't have perfect candidates. They're afraid. They're running around. They're throwing in the towel. Everybody's panicked, okay? The voters, we the people, have to preserve our nation. We need to come together and say, I'm not going to allow Hillary Clinton and the Democrats to destroy my country, to ruin the Supreme Court and turn it into a ruling class permanently. I am going to defend my Constitution and my country, and that might mean that I can't do what I would like to do. I would maybe not like to vote. Maybe I'd like to vote for the other guy, or maybe I'd like to defeat or spank some people. But in the end, if we all become selfish, we are not advancing our nation's cause.
Absolutely.
And so we have to set aside our own personal selfishness, which is what the GOP should do. It's what Donald Trump should do. We should all come together around the concept of our Constitution. And we all, mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters, and everyone needs to come together to defend our Constitution. And the best hope we have right now is to put Donald Trump ahead of Hillary and to save the Senate and the House so that we can start rolling back some of the damage that has been done under Obama.
Absolutely.
It's on November 9th. Do you all want to wake up and say, well, yeah, I told you so, and yeah, so there. Yeah. All right? You want to wake up like that and then realize that we're going to have to listen to Hillary Clinton drone on and lecture us for 4 more years or maybe 8? Do you really want that? Because that's the choice we're facing right now. And we have to start setting aside our own selfishness and our own biases, I guess, against Donald Trump and all of these feckless Republicans. But we have to do the job that they can't do, which is to save our country from progressivism and Hillary Clinton.
Amen. Amen. I mean that, amen, Susan, because absolutely that was an exact replication of what we've tried to say the last couple of days on this program. You summed up my words and other people's words very well, and I commend you for what you said, and I certainly pray that America will wake up, pull their head out of the sand or wherever, and realize what kind of despair we're looking at for the next 4 years. Thank you, Susan, for being on the program this morning. I really will have you back as soon as I can, and please reserve some time to come back and tell us more.
I will. Thank you so much, and God bless America.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate your remarks this morning. I like that lady. She's very straightforward and tells it like it is, Susan Swift, and I thank her very much for being on our program this morning. Wow. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan, I think I'll send you a copy of that last 15 minutes. Wake up, GOP. Smell the coffee and the roses. Get some backbone. Maybe watch a couple of John Wayne movies and realize it's time to stand up and, like Bert Stevenson said earlier this morning, ride for the brand. Caller, I'll have to take your call in about 60 seconds. Bear with me. Right now, we're going to have a weather forecast sponsored by Pope Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin and Company CPAs. Curtis Pope, Todd Phillips, Rob Oaks, Mitch Goodwin, and Lyden Crane, providing the best of accounting services to the Minicash area for well over 50 years. Tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, bookkeeping services, retirement planning, all of this with 2 locations to serve the area, 1710 Overland and Burley and 625th Street in Rupert. And now here's Scotty with the weather.
Well, good Tuesday morning. Scotty Cameron in for your Zeb at the weather forecast. Gina Jameson is out today. Well, looks like we're going to see some sun, going to be blowing a little bit as well. Highs are only going to reach around 63 with wind gusts around 33 miles per hour. Now, tonight, you're going to want to cover your tomatoes. There is a freeze warning in effect. Lows are going to be around 32 as the skies clear off. Then for tomorrow, expecting some sunshine. Highs around 63, clear for tomorrow night, lows of 39. Then for Thursday, mostly sunny, highs around 70 as we go into the weekend, looking for some rain as things are going to be cooling off again during the weekend. That is your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. I'm Scotty Cameron.
Does a great job. Thank you, Scotty. Brought to you this hour by Pope Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin and Company. And they are the best of CPAs serving you. Don't forget, it's the end of the year, and you need to get all prepared for tax time. Get a hold of them today. Pope Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin and Company CPAs. Thank you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Wow. What a woman. I'm so glad she came on. I wish she could go on national TV with those words of hers. Boy, did she put it out there, and I wish more people could hear that.
I am very honored to have Susan be a part of our program, and she has consented many, many times to come on in the future. And those are the people that I want you to hear. Those are the people that I respect their opinion. And you know something, caller? Right now, I really don't care, and I underline the don't care words in that last sentence, if the Republicans are upset or not, even locally. You know, it's damn sure time that somebody started showing some backbone in politics. It's time or past time that they stood up and said, no, we're not going to accept this. No, we're not going to go with this sleaze. No, we're not going to vote for this bill. No more, well, listen, if you pat my back, I'll pat yours. I've had enough of it. And if the Republicans and Trump, everybody loses this election to Hillary, I'll tell you what, it's their own fault for not having the backbone to stand up and say no.
Well, that's right. And if they do lose and let Hillary take it, they're just getting what they deserve. Unfortunately, so are the rest of us getting it.
Absolutely.
Back to her passion and everything, that's what we should all be feeling.
and be smart enough, like she says, don't cut off our nose to spite our face and try to punish them. Let's hang together, even if it's a wobbly GOP, at least it's wobbling together.
Thank you very, very much for your call. I really appreciate your addressing that last guest. Thank you very much. God bless and have a good day. Thank you. You know, Bert Stevens had said something earlier, and I want to elaborate on it just a little bit before I have to do another commercial. On my business cards, and this is something you can check out, I've got hundreds and hundreds of them, I ride for the brand. In other words, if I work for somebody, if I'm announcing for somebody, if I do some work for somebody, regardless of whether it's my real estate or whether it's this business here with the radio, etc., I ride for the brand. Caller, I'll be right there. Stand by. But Bert brought it up this morning that it's about high time the Republican Party, Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, I don't care who it is, started riding for the brand and riding for their constituents. Riding for the people that pay their damn bills. You and me. Show some backbone and fight back. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Zed, do you remember the platform that Mike Crapo ran on when he first ran for Congress?
Yes, I do. Go ahead quickly. I've only got a limited time. Go ahead and explain it quickly.
Well, he ran on a term limits platform. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
And he promised to be part of the solution, and instead he became part of the problem. And he thinks so little of the voters that he's running an ad now, vote for him because he fights for us against the Washington insiders, of which he is a senior member and one of the most powerful men in the Senate.
Okay, make your point quickly, please.
I know he's Republican, and I am a Republican, but I'm sick and tired of the good old boys club in Washington, and I think that's probably like he's saving somebody's lumber company now from the Washington insiders and all their problems, of which he's been part of creating for the last 10 years.
Well, my point is,
I don't think people realize this.
My point is this, sir, is that Mike Crapo has been on my program many, many times. Mike has had the nerve to take the questions, the direct questions from me, and I've got more for him right now, more so than ever, as far as his re-election and as far as where he stands on the party and as far as where he stands on backbone. And believe me, if I get him on the air this next week, which I'm scheduled to have him in, I am going to ask him these questions. Now, in regards to Mike Simpson, the man has not had the courage to call me. I have left the door open for invitations to give him time on the air and express his opinions. He won't call. I'm not going to be a dog chasing parked cars. He wants to get on this program. He can call me. That's my attitude on politics this morning.
Well, I appreciate you, Zeb, and just keep giving them HE double toothpicks all you can, because we have too few people like you on the air. Thanks again.
God bless you for your call. Thank you very, very much, sir. I appreciate it. Before we leave, I want to remind everybody about Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service, 336 South, 450 West of Paul. The number to call, 431-8733. Need trimming of trees? They can do it. Need a new lawn sodded or seeded? They can do it. And if you're thinking about putting in a new sprinkler system, hurry, hurry, hurry before Old Man Winter gets here. They can get the job done. And then if you already have an existing sprinkler system, they can blow out the lines so they don't freeze up this winter. Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service, 431-8733. I appreciate all your calls and your comments, and right now we're going to take off for CBS News. We'll be back with Dr. History in about 7 minutes. Don't go away. Well, here we are. It's been one of those days where, quite frankly, it's time to stand up and stomp your boot heels a little bit, get mad, because we've got a pickle. We've got a big pickle going on in politics, and a whole bunch of people that haven't got the backbone, or as John Wayne would say, the guts, to stand up for their beliefs and their convictions. Zeb at the Ranch, I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, and all of our great advertisers, too. I'm telling you, like Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Call 734-6969. We're going to have a dear friend on the air. He kind of calmed me down when he walked in this morning. Actually, no, his first remarks made me want to jump up and hit him in the eye, but we're dear friends. I didn't do that. Dr. History will be here in just a moment. Don't forget that a gentleman running for re-election for the Republican District 25 senatorial seat, Jim Patrick. And Jim is a local farmer for over 40 years, a banking director for over 20 years, and he really knows the state of Idaho. He served on the Agricultural, Education, and Business Committees and also on the JFAC Committee. Please, November 8th, re-elect Jim Patrick, Republican for District 25 Senate seat, paid for by re-elect Patrick for Senator, Treasurer Jim Patrick. Also, quickly, I want to remind you, oh my goodness, I'm running so far behind. Our dear friends at Lennox offering rebates. Yep, that's right, through Ramsey Heating and Electric. Rebates on qualified Lennox home comfort systems. Whether it's a gas furnace, air conditioner, or a heat pump, you and your family will enjoy the comfort. Call them at 678-0459 and learn how Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox can save you money. It is time for one of my absolute favorite segments. It'll give me 30 minutes to calm down. That's, of course, Dr. History, and he is brought to you by Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. Zach and the crew bringing you Dr. History. And now with the deep breath, I say, good morning.
Good morning, Zeb. I'm not even going to ask you how you are.
We did that already.
Yeah, we did. We've gone through that. Yes. So, I'm going to give you a little quiz question here, Zeb.
Oh, you're going to start me off with a question this morning?
I think you can come up with the answer.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, if you think of all the fabulous tales of lost mines and buried treasure, there's been movies, books, all kinds of things written and shown about this particular place.
Okay, the Lost Dutchman.
You got it.
In Arizona.
Yes.
And I got to tell you that one year, it's been quite a few years ago, I was down there and I did go out into the desert in that general location because they still claim, and I'm not trying to take any thunder away from you, that it's still there.
Right. And we're going to go into that. So, again, this is a legend of the Lost Dutchman mine and located somewhere deep in the rugged and rough superstitious mountains.
Oh, it is. It is rough.
I've never been there, but everything I've read about it.
Yeah.
But it's east of Phoenix, Arizona, and this elusive source of gold has tantalized researchers and treasure hunters for a long time.
That's right.
So, but the Superstition Mountains are an appropriate setting for this story. Once sacred to the Apache, they are a remote, and maybe you found this, rattlesnake-infested maze.
I didn't get off the four-wheeler.
Okay. Well, all you got to do is say snake to me, and I'm not even going close. But rocky canyons and ridges and steep slopes and rugged, dry in the American Southwest.
It's the desert.
Yeah. So, anyway, long before gold-seeking Spaniards visited the region, during the early 1500s, the Apache believed the range was inhabited by special gods who jealously guarded their treasures.
Mm-hmm.
The thunder god who ruled the superstitions would supposedly roll rocks from the high cliffs onto anyone who dared to trespass in there. And from these Indian legends sprang the so-called curse of the Superstitious Mountains.
Really?
Yeah. Now, the Pima Indians had their own tales. One of their legends reported that the great Aztec ruler Montezuma had gathered his huge fortune and ordered his people to transport it from deep into Mexico into the Superstitious Mountains. And there, the Aztecs buried the gold and treasure of this dying empire to keep it safe from the conquistadors and the raiders and everybody that was coming in to rob them, basically.
Wasn't there a movie that was made to kind of go around the story of the Lost Dutchman mine that Gregory Peck was in? It was a Western. You remember that?
That sounds familiar, but I couldn't exactly think of which ones were about this particular one. But anyway, the Spanish explorers commanded by Coronado entered the region during the early part of the 16th century, and in 1539, an expedition led by a guy named Fray Marcos de Niza, I don't know if I said that right, he set forth from Mexico City to find the great quantity of gold the Spanish believed existed in the vast regions to the north. So as a result of Denise's observations, the Spaniards undertook prospecting and mining operations. Well, they did. They discovered gold and silver in a lot of locations, and they actually established a lot of mines in that area.
Really?
Yeah. And several of the mines in the Superstition Mountains, both placer and shaft, yielded a lot of money, fortunes in gold. And for several generations, the Spanish successfully extracted the gold from the Superstitions, and every 2 or 3 months, pack trains loaded with hundreds of pounds, these ingots, these gold ingots, rode these trails from the mines to Mexico City.
Really?
Far to the south. So there was a lot of gold that left that ended up in Mexico City.
Yeah.
So might be a good stop for a break here, Zeb.
Well, now that you got me kind of on the hook here, that's a very interesting story, and it's going to get a lot better here in just a few minutes, too. Dr. History brought to you by Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley. Zach and the rest of the crew, and I know Zach's listening right now, one of the nicest people I've ever met, and absolutely they can help you with all your lumber packages. Maybe you need to do a little remodeling before the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. Well, you better look at the calendar and then get down there and get to work. Minnecasia Sales can help you with that. And also the upgrading of your windows with the Western Windows to save on your heating bills. Don't forget to stop in and see them today. Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley. And now back to the Gold Man.
The Lost Dutchman. So, as the Spanish mining activity and the Superstitions increased, so did the Apache resentment against the intruders, which that was their land, you know. And here's these guys coming into, miners. So to the Indians, the Superstitions were homeland. It was a holy ground. And in their quest for food, the Spanish hunters, they killed and slaughtered the deer, the buffalo, the antelope, to a degree that there was not much left for the Indians.
Right.
And eventually and inevitably, the Apache began to retaliate.
Absolutely.
I mean, again, it was their land.
Yep.
So initially they attacked and killed small parties of hunters and ambushed pack trains along the narrow trails. As the ranks of the Spaniards grew thin, the Indians began to attack the mining camps themselves, actually where they were mining. So sometimes they would have battles that would last all day long with the miners against the Indians. But the Spaniards worked the rich mines from about 1590 to the mid-1700s, and gradually they abandoned them as they depleted the ore and as the Indians continued their attacks. So legend has it that the Spaniards actually covered the entrances to the mines before they left the region. So when you think about the Lost Dutchman mine, there's probably a lot more mines than just the Lost Dutchman.
And that was my next question in regards to all the trails and the actual leading into and out of the area. Why wasn't that found?
That's a great question. And again, the Spaniards covered the entrances is what they figured. So, and you've been there, so you know that where do you stop to dig?
Yeah, I mean,
really?
We talk about the Oregon Trail, okay?
Right.
And we know where there is visible evidence of the Oregon Trail right through this area, as a matter of fact. It's still here.
Yes.
Okay, but why not down there?
That's a great question, and I just don't know the answer to that one. But, for decades, the Superstition Mountains lay quiet, undisturbed, no mining going on. Only the Apache passed through what they called the Thunder God's domain, constantly on guard against the return of the invaders, more miners coming. Well, with the Mexican Revolution of 1821 came the end of the Spaniards' reign, and they never returned to the mountains or the treasures. So where they did bury, they never returned to recover. Now, here we go. In Mexico, a man named Peralta. Have you heard that name?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He heard tales of the gold mines to the north, and so for many years, the Peralta family had operated several gold mines in Sonora and Arizona.
What year was that?
That was about 1821.
Okay.
Shortly after that.
Okay.
So they had some gold mines, and they were intrigued by the possibility of extending their interests into the Superstition Mountains. So, actually a little later, during the 1840s, Peralta, by this time, now he's an older man by now, he's in his 60s, and he learned that there was going to be the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo.
Yes.
Okay, which would eventually grant the northern part of Mexico to the United States.
And also California.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Peralta hurried to extract what gold he could prior to this treaty in 1848. Now, obtaining locational information left by the Spaniards, this Don Miguel Peralta II, which I guess is his son,
Okay.
Has to be.
Well, I would think so.
Yeah. Organized a party to travel to the isolated range and reopen these rich mines.
Uh-huh.
Now, not only did Peralta employ miners, now get this, he also had geologists, engineers, he had a dozen guards for protection from the Indians.
And this is back in the 1840s?
Yeah, 1848, yeah.
Wow.
And so when the expedition left Mexico, they had over 400 people in this expedition.
Wow.
So, they had high hopes, I guess. But anyway, on arriving in the Superstitions, the Peralta expedition used the Spaniards' maps to relocate the placer mines. They actually reopened several of the shafts. They extracted as much ore as they could. In addition to the impending treaty deadline, they also had to contend with an increasing number of hostile Apache.
Really?
The Apaches, once again, they've got all these hundreds of people in their land.
So here's 400 people coming up from Mexico.
Right, yeah.
And just basically setting up a small community.
Yeah, we're going to mine.
Yeah.
So the miners, the hunters, and the guards occasionally would fall victim to Indian arrows. The curse of the superstitions kind of became the main topic of conversation among members of the expedition. So you can imagine if you're in this group of 400 people and some of your buddies get shot or fall or injured or dead, you start thinking that maybe there is a curse here.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
So anyway, as the time to leave approached, Peralta and his men covered all the mines in the hope that they would also someday be able to come back and make the appropriate political arrangements to return.
Covered how?
That's the great question. How did they really cover it?
Yeah.
So he had them load tons, and it says tons, of gold ingots and ore onto several pack trains to carry most of this new wealth back into Mexico.
Okay.
So because of the time limit and because the pack animals could only carry so much, he actually had a lot of this gold buried in secret locations near the mines. So there's buried treasure not only the mines, but buried treasure around the mines somewhere.
Why didn't the Indians, because they were all over the place, literally, why didn't they go dig it up? And I guess what I'm asking is, why didn't they take what was being taken from that area?
I don't think the Indians thought the gold was a treasure. For them, gold really didn't mean anything. But the Apaches basically chased these guys back to Mexico.
Yeah.
And they left a bunch of it there. So even as this treaty took effect in 1848, then we have Sutter's Mill, the California Gold Rush, and now here comes a German immigrant named Jacob Waltz, also known as the Dutchman. So this is where the Dutchman comes into the Superstition Mountains. So Waltz came west with considerable mining experience. The most notable, he actually had gold strikes in North Carolina and Georgia.
North Carolina?
And Georgia. Now,
really?
That was kind of news to me because when you think of gold, you don't think of the East.
No,
do
you
really?
think of California and Arizona, etc.
So Waltz was living in Mississippi when he learned of the Sutter Mill discovery. So along with thousands of others, he packed his belongings, traveled to the Golden State with the hope of becoming rich. Well, little is known of the activities of this rather, they call him a reclusive guy with this Waltz, until about 1860. Now, it's believed that he worked several small placer claims in Northern California. Now, here's where it gets interesting. One evening, as he enjoyed a nice cold brewski in a tavern in a small mining town in California, Waltz was distracted by a disturbance. An angry gambler was beating an unarmed elderly man. Just after the gambler plunged a knife into the defenseless man's stomach, the Dutchman stepped in and subdued this gambler. Basically saved this old man's life.
Wow.
Okay. Now Waltz carried this bleeding victim to his room. The wounded man introduced himself as Don Miguel Peralta II. So here we go.
The plot thickens.
The plot thickens. So as Waltz nursed Peralta back to health, they had a friendship that formed between the two men, and in his gratitude, Peralta gave Waltz his secret, the story of the gold of the Superstition Mountains. So now we're in the 1840s. Now, the Civil War was gaining momentum in the South. Waltz, using directions provided by Peralta, entered the Superstition Mountains.
This would have been the 1860s.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. 1860s. So after several years of searching, Jacob Waltz finally found the gold. Okay. He had difficulty interpreting Peralta's map, but he did find the gold. So in the western end of the range, in a dry bed called Camp Creek, okay,
There is a Camp Creek, Arizona.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's maybe as close as we're ever going to really get.
Yeah.
But Waltz discovered one of the Peralta placer mines, and nearby he found the ruins of several rock houses, 2 mine shafts that had been covered over.
Oh, my.
To the south of these, Rick's deposit stood as a sharply pointed peak that many researchers have identified as the Weaver's Needle. You've heard of that?
Yes.
The Weaver's Needle, the big landmark
Yeah.
that they all used. It's a prominent landmark, and other investigators believe that Walt saw this peak. And anyway, he explored the region for several days. He discovered, like I say, several caches of the ore and bullion left behind by not only the Spaniards but Peralta. Now, so we get to the age-old curse. Okay, the Dutchman, he refused to believe that. He didn't think that was, But even with that, he slept with a gun next to him all the time. He was by himself.
I was going to say, did he have anybody working with him?
He was by himself.
Wow.
But he kept a lookout for the Apaches, and Waltz, Bennett went to the task of panning ore. He actually panned from the small stream, besides excavating gold from the nearby mine shafts. Now, this had to be hard work. But he dug out the gold, and allegedly he also buried large quantities in this whole area. So there's all kinds of supposedly buried treasure in this whole region.
So basically, it's a misnomer, and I'm guilty of saying it too, the Lost Dutchman Gold Mine, because it's singular. It's actually plural. There were a lot of mines.
Mines and buried treasure. So anyway, the only time he left the mountains was to travel to Phoenix to get supplies. So Waltz paid for his purchases with what they describe as the purest gold nuggets ever seen by anyone in that region.
Wow.
And when townspeople inquired about the source of the gold, Waltz replied that no one would ever find his mine. It was a prophecy that turned to be true. I know we're running out of time.
Why didn't somebody follow him? I'm wondering.
Well, I'm going to tell you about that.
Oh, okay.
Now, more and more people became acquainted with the Dutchman's mining successes, and some tried to follow him on his return trips into the superstitions. Well, Waltz normally was able to lose these people by, taking different trails, different tracks, but it is believed that he often waited in ambush to kill those who were tracking and trailing him.
No kidding.
Because a lot of men entered the mysterious range and never returned. So this kind of added to the suspense of the growing curse, so to speak.
Yeah.
So anyway, Wallace continued to operate his mines for about 20 years. But he eventually grew old, and a hard life took their toll. He shared the secret directions of his mine with only one other person, a person named Julia Thomas. Now, while a lot of searchers believe that the directions he provided to Thomas were accurate, they don't fit the information that Waltz revealed over the years to others. So people have assembled the bits and pieces of information about the trails and the landmarks into sets of directions, but unfortunately they contradict each other. So one person has this bit, another person has this bit, and they don't fit together. The puzzle doesn't fit. Anyway, Jacob Waltz finally died in 1891 at the home of this Julia Thomas. Well, his death launched one of the longest treasure quests in history, hundreds of expeditions into the superstitions in search of the lost Dutchman. And the curse, dozens of men lost their lives, and, a lot of them probably to the Apaches, to the Indians, but thirst, snake bite, starvation, getting lost. Now, again, I've never been there, but I think you could probably get lost up in there.
Yeah.
So, anyway, despite the thousands of articles, books, movies that have been produced concerning the Lost Dutchman mine, the immense fortune that remains hidden to this day. After Waltz died, a lot of people claimed to have found the Lost Dutchman, but investigations proved their claims to be false.
How much of this story, whether it's with the Peraltas or whether it's with Waltz or whomever, how much do you think is really, really true?
As with a lot of history, you've got to wonder, because, we're taking various authors' opinions of what they have researched and what they have come up with. So,
well, go back to the Peraltas for a minute, though. It was basically, was it knowledge that they sent 400 people up there? And is it proven historical fact that they were trying to move the gold out of there?
I think there's enough information that a lot of this is true. The Spaniards, the Apaches. Some say that the mine never existed. I mean, but he found gold in the superstitions. He'd go into Phoenix and use the gold to buy supplies. But again, you think of what, like I did too, Lost Dutchman mine, singular. But that's not what we're understanding.
Yeah.
Now, I knew a man years ago. He's an older gentleman, and he swore that he knew where the mine was.
Really?
And he went down there and took another fellow from this area with him. They went down, but they didn't get into exactly where he thought it was. He got older. He's passed away since. And I always thought, if you really think you know exactly where it is, why are you still here in Burley, Idaho?
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is that about the curse or the superstition, and I want to tell you real quick, I've only got 30 seconds left. My parents had some friends that lived down in that area years and years ago, long time ago, when I was just a kid. And they went out there, gold prospecting, if you will, one time. And they said they'd never go back because of the eerie, unsettling feeling of the area.
Ooh. Well, when you think of according to this, the people that died or were killed or hit by rocks or avalanches or the snakes I don't know that I really want to go in there.
No. And today, there are still people right now as we speak are out there looking for it.
Oh, I'm sure there are. Yeah. And hopefully they don't get hit with the curse.
There you go. Boy, that was a good one. You had my attention on that one. Dr. History. Absolutely. Don't go away. I'll talk to you in a minute. Brought to you by Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. Zach and the whole crew at Minnecasia Sales. Oh, and don't forget, too, they've got all the Tartar Farm and Ranch gates and panels for you at Minnecasia Sales. Stop in and see those good folks today. By the way, on Thursdays, we have another segment called School Days in Cassia County, brought to you by not the cough, but this, A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. And literally shop for all your clothing for back to school. New winter coats have arrived. And don't forget all the shirts and the jeans, everything for your children right there. And layaway and free gift wrapping, too, at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley, along with the Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. Remember, saving you money on your outpatient surgeries. Whether it's cataract surgery, colonoscopies, hand surgeries, please call them at 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center and A Child's World, bringing you School Days in Cassia County on Thursdays. Oh, my. Dr. History every Tuesday at 10:06 on our program, brought to you by Minnecasia Sales. Thank you, Doctor. And right now we'll send it back over to our main studios for this break. I'll be right back.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KVAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Wow, I tell you what, Dr. History had an excellent program about the Lost Dutchman gold mine here the last 30 minutes. Enjoyed that. Don't forget, also, our friends at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. My goodness sakes, they've got all your furniture that you just absolutely need to beautify. And I don't know if this is a word or not, but we're going to incorporate it as a word. Comfortize your home with all the mattresses and the bedroom sets and the dining room sets, the entertainment stands, my goodness sakes, the bunk beds and all the recliners. The list goes on. Nice people serving you at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More, 459 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see them today. Right now, I am going to welcome a lady to this program that's been many times on this show, and hopefully many more. And she's going to be talking about a topic that I was visiting with you folks about, I think it was about 2 weeks ago. And I questioned why the Sioux Indian tribe was allowed to stay on federal lands and the government wasn't going to do a thing to kick them off. And yet what they did up in Oregon to Lavoy Finicum and the others was absolutely, I think, abhorrent. And this lady's going to be talking about that. Rachel Alexander, good morning. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on again.
You know, I am very appreciative of the fact that you're coming on and talking about this story, which is very close to me because you don't know this, but exactly 7 days before Mr. Finicum was shot up in Oregon, he was on my program. And I know the family, I know the son-in-law, I know the daughter, and I feel that that whole situation in Oregon was a travesty as compared to what's being done in the Dakotas with the Sioux Indians, and I'll let you pick it up from there.
Exactly. I wrote this article because I was so appalled at the disparate treatment going on by the feds of one type of protester versus another type of protester. You have these ranchers who are, for the most part, peacefully protesting. They're not causing any damage. All they're doing is trespass, which is a minor crime when they spent the night at that wildlife refuge. And then you've got these other protesters who were also armed around this oil pipeline between North Dakota and Iowa. And these guys are causing damage to the property. They're breaking the fence around the pipeline, which caused a delay of the pipeline, all their violence. They chained themselves to the pipeline, which is a criminal trespass violation. And what happens to them? Nothing. They get wrist slaps. They've been there for 2 months camped out. The local sheriff in North Dakota has sent a concern letter to AG Loretta Lynch saying these guys are actively conducting training with their weapons. They are dangerous. He's scared of them, yet the only thing that ever happens is, they cross the line, they get arrested, they get booked, and within minutes after getting booked, they're released to go back and protest some more. And the difference is appalling, especially when you consider that LaVoy Finicum, he wasn't even on the federal land when they killed him. He was driving up to John Day, and my connection, I got a small connection there is, I went and covered a black powder shooting in John Day a couple of years ago, and I met some of the, local activists in town, and they're all really good people. And so for the government to chase him down on a public road and then shoot him, it's appalling, and this is just the same old, the Occupy protesters, the Black Lives Matter protesters. They don't get a free pass because they're favorites of the Obama administration. But if you're a conservative rancher and you're peacefully protesting, you're going to get the book thrown at you. And those ranchers, they're now facing, years in jail. They don't just get arrested and then released a minute later. I heard one of the guys from New Hampshire who came to join in a similar protest recently on the Clive and Bundy Ranch in Nevada. He had to take a plea bargain of, I think, 5 years in prison, merely because he drove across the country and was armed. That's it.
I'm glad you laid it out like you did, Rachel, because I am absolutely furious about this case. And as a matter of fact, after having you on the program this morning, I'm going to be calling the family members and try to get them back on the show, hopefully this next week, to discuss this. But I want to make this injection about this story on this pipeline. And you know this to be true. They waited, they being the government, 6 years of all the tests, all the studies, everything was sent in through the Obama administration. Everything came back positive on putting this pipeline in. And once they started, then the protesters from the Sioux Indian tribe and other areas came in and started creating all this havoc and this mess. This pipeline was absolutely approved, and now they're causing all this trouble.
Oh, yeah, it gets even worse. They had 9 planning meetings, and the Standing Sioux tribe was invited to attend. They blew them off, never attended them. The federal government went and did its own study of the land to determine whether there were going to be any Native American artifacts destroyed in the process of putting the pipeline in. Nope, they didn't find any present on the land. And so what happened? They finally start building it, and that's when the environmental activists get the Native Americans all riled up over nothing. And what's even more weird is Obama wouldn't even let the pipeline be put on federal land. So technically, this pipeline is going in on private land. State and local governments are dealing with it, but the protesters are protesting on federal land adjacent to the private land. So my point there is that Obama did everything he could to keep this off of federal land and stop the pipeline, but because it was on private land, they were able to go around him. And so these Native Americans are technically they're angry at private land, and again, they don't have anything to stand on because they ignored all the meetings.
Let me ask you this, Rachel, and you've always been a straight shooter on this program, and I expect the same this morning. Do you think, and I'm asking you a speculative type question and your opinion, but do you think that because in Malheur County, Oregon, that piece of land and that federal land was part of the uranium deal to go to the Russians through the Clintons and money possibly coming back to the Clinton Foundation, that's why we had all the turmoil and the eventual death of a citizen?
That's a very good question. I haven't researched it enough to know off the top of my head if that seems to be a legitimate concern or merely a conspiracy theory. But, you know, in my years of researching and writing about similar things, what I've found is a lot of things seem rather conspiratorial at first, and then the goods come out. The emails are leaked. You know, the smoking gun is revealed, and those of us who were ridiculed initially are vindicated. You know, I can tell you all kinds of topics I've written about, whether Common Core, Benghazi, where I was ridiculed in the beginning and said, you're just a conspiracy freak. And now look at the tide has changed on, you know, those two issues. Everybody knows there were funny shenanigans going on with Benghazi, and even the left doesn't like Kevin Common Core as much anymore. So it would not surprise me. I would not put it past the Clinton Foundation and the left to have some intention there.
Well, John Rappaport, Rachel, had written a story, and it was an investigative report. And he came up at the end of his story, and he said this: Bill Clinton, Bureau of Land Management, Hillary Clinton, John Rappaport, Malheur County Sheriff, the Malheur National Wildlife Reserve, all of these questions are tied into the one word, uranium. And he said this, Rappaport wrote this: is uranium at the heart of the standoff? That's the question I'm asking. It isn't a flippant question. I realize there are many other issues swirling around this event, and this article isn't meant to take apart those matters. But, Rachel, right now, with all the issues about Russia, the uranium promise to their country from our country, doesn't it make a lot of sense that that might be one of the major reasons why these protesters were issued off that federal land?
It definitely does, and I'm not going to say it makes it look better, but it would give a real reasonable explanation, because I can't understand why the Obama administration would be so brutal to these ranchers. You know, I thought it was just partisan ideology, but it would definitely make more of a natural explanation. And heck, maybe I could research and write it some more, because I haven't looked into it, but it sounds like it's worth investigating further.
You know, and let me ask you about your piece that you wrote, and it was very, very well done in the stream, called "The Violent Pipeline Protesters Are Obama-Approved, Peaceful Ranchers Not So Much." You know why? I can answer the question, because here we are with the Indian tribes in this country, and it's kind of a white gloves don't touch attitude, don't say anything bad, etc. You know, here's a bunch of ranchers trying to make a living on the land, etc., and they're discardable. But the Indian tribes with the reservation, the money, and everything else, the government's afraid of them. I'm going to come right out and say it.
Well, and why don't the ranchers get to care about their land that, you know, they've leased and used for years? Like the Indians, you know, they technically have their land in a similar situation. It's the government holds it in trust for them like a lease. I mean, it's the exact same thing. What's the difference? And the government picks and chooses who it likes and who it doesn't like. And, you know, I'm going to be politically incorrect here and say it. You know, a lot of these Indian tribes, when you ask them, you know, do you want to build a casino on your land, they're all too eager to build a casino. But when it comes to, like, these other things, they seem a little reluctant. And I live here in Arizona. I live right next to an Indian reservation, and, you know, I see all the politics that goes on, and it's dang frustrating. I mean, we have this Indian reservation right next to us that's just miles of nothingness because the tribes won't agree to do anything with it. We need to put a freeway in there, and they won't agree to it. And it's politics, and it's left-wing politics. So, you know, guess who wins every time?
You had one little paragraph in your story that I want to read over the air, and it just shows the ambiguity of the ranchers up at Malheur County, Oregon, versus the Sioux Indian tribe back in the Dakotas. And this is the quote. Federal agents say they have no intention of removing the trespassers, declaring they, the trespassers, have a free speech right and to be on the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers land. The Corps has encouraged the protesters to move to adjacent land where they have a permit to stay, but they refuse. Please tell me the difference between the ranchers and the Indian tribes. This is so ridiculous and so ambiguous. The American government and Obama administration, they should have egg all over their face.
I really have no answer for you. I don't understand it. Free speech for one, but not for another. They try to back off and say, oh, well, we don't have the resources. Really? Well, you've got the resources to arrest them over and over again and release them immediately. So if you have the resources to arrest them, why don't you have the resources to permanently kick them off? I just don't know what to say. I think, your theory is probably right. There's more going on here than meets the eye, because how can they get away with this? And all I can think of is, what are we going to do to fight back? And because the legal system is controlled by the left, so, my recommendation is just people need to expose it, spread the word, write stories, and flood the decision makers with letters, emails, and phone calls. These people who are involved, whether it's Loretta Lynch, who could make a decision to, remove these protesters, or, some of the local law enforcement, we need to empower them, and we need to urge them to start treating these protesters the same way everybody else is getting treated.
Well, you're
protesting and you're trespassing. You know what? You need to suffer the consequences, which means you're going to be prosecuted for repeated misdemeanors.
And the point you brought out so well in your article is that these Sioux Indians and their tribe, they are armed, and there's been actions taken, and there's been some violence, etc., as opposed to the ranchers up at Malheur, Oregon. There was no violence. There was nobody causing any problem. But look at the ambiguity of our government and the way this is handled, and it just absolutely reeks of discrimination against white ranchers in our government.
Yeah, well, they're the easiest target, white, Christian, conservative men. I mean, it's the, most targeted demographic in the U.S. pretty much now. So, with this Obama administration, they can just go on the rampage and nobody will do anything. And they know, too, since, these ranchers, they're not wealthy, they can't afford, big attorneys and big PR firms. And they also know that since the ranchers did trespass, no matter how minor the violation, and, Martin Luther King trespassed, so it's not like, it can't be done, but the fact that they broke the law makes it so hard for people to defend them. I know a lot of conservative Republicans who won't defend the ranchers because of the trespassing. So they are just the easiest target.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a question. Quickly, caller, I'm almost out of time. Go ahead.
Yes, I learned when I was in the Dakotas that the Indians, they don't have to go through the representatives and stuff like we do. They report right to the President of the United States, whereas we as citizens here, we have to go through our representatives and that in order to get to the government there. I didn't know if you knew that.
Well, I appreciate the information.
When I was up in the Dakotas.
Let me ask you real quick, sir, while you were in the Dakotas, did you notice kind of a specialized interest for them and not for you? Did you get that feeling?
From the Indian people?
Yes.
Or, yeah, they didn't like you very well. But as far as I wasn't involved with the government, and I was with the Indians. They're definitely they've got monies and stuff that's coming in to them from the federal government,
right?
Direct, but I did learn that they
they report back direct to the president, not to representatives or anything, and like we do.
All right, sir. I appreciate your call. And real quick, Rachel, it's kind of a system right now today that you're talking about in your piece, and I'm talking about that happened possibly with the ranchers out here in Oregon. What's good for one is not good for the other, and the laws are not equitable according to what we're reading.
That's exactly true. And as anyone who reads me knows, I am now making it, part of my career to expose the government wrongly targeting, it's mainly conservative Republicans, and it's getting out of control. But I do think, there's going to be a backlash, and we're already starting to see it in the case of Bob McDonnell, was finally exonerated unanimously by the Supreme Court after that bogus political witch hunt.
Absolutely. Real quick, and I've had you on talking about politics before, give me a quick minute dissertation about what you think the state of politics is this morning, 28 days from the election, with the vileness of Hillary and Donald Trump, the weakness of the GOP. Quick, give me a synopsis.
I think we're in a really bad situation. Early balloting has already started. Between the media, biased media against Trump, pro-Hillary, and between voter fraud, you've heard how over 1,000 people were legally registered to vote in Virginia. I don't see how Trump can pull it off at this point. The odds against him are too huge, and the media just ignores. I mean, WikiLeaks, the October surprise comes out, all of John Podesta's emails, and it doesn't seem to make a difference. Nobody seems to care. Hillary gets away with horrible things, and that'll be my next article. I'm going to cover Podesta's latest batch of emails, but I think we're in a really bad situation, and I fear for this country.
Be sure and call me if you would, and let me know when that's coming out. I'd like to have you back on the program. Rachel Alexander, writing for The Stream, excellent article and a great topic, and please do a follow-up and let us know. Rachel, God bless, and thanks for coming on the program.
God bless you, too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wow. Why for one group and not for the other group? When the ranchers went up to Malheur County, Oregon, and were protesting on federal land, oh my goodness, there was everything said and done by the feds and by the Oregon State Police. Get them out of here. Get them out of here. And they were figuring any way they could evict them. But the Standing Rock Sioux tribe and all their armed, and they are armed, environmental activists are protesting an oil pipeline even after it's been approved. This is 6 years in the making. Everybody knew it was going to go through. But then all of a sudden, these activists with the Sioux tribe said no. And they are violating the law, and they are staying on federal land, and nobody has the guts to tell them to leave. Time for the weather, and the weather's brought to you this hour by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Delicious meats from Scarrows Meats. Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew, locally owned custom meat processor for over 20 years. Right now, here's Scotty with the weather.
Well, good Tuesday morning. Scotty Cameron in for your Zeb at the weather forecast. Gina Jameson is out today. Well, looks like we're going to see some sun, going to be blowing a little bit as well. Highs are only going to reach around 63 with wind gusts around 33 miles per hour. Now, tonight, you're going to want to cover your tomatoes. There is a freeze warning in effect. Lows are going to be around 32 as the skies clear off. Then for tomorrow, expecting some sunshine. Highs around 63, clear for tomorrow night. Lows of 39. Then for Thursday, mostly sunny, highs around 70 as we go into the weekend, looking for some rain as things are going to be cooling off again during the weekend. That is your Zeb at the Ranch weather forecast. I'm Scotty Cameron.
Thank you very much. Brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. I was in a bad mood when I got up this morning. My Chicago Cubs, I thought they were going to sweep the Giants, and they ended up getting beat. I couldn't stay awake, and I finally fell asleep about 10:30 or so. And they got beat 6-5. They had a 3-0 lead, and they blew it. And the Giants now trail the Cubs 2-1 in the National League Division Series. And come on, Cubs, it's your turn for the World's. It's past your turn, believe me, to be the World Series champions. You got to go. You got to go all the way. Let's see what else have we got cooking. Tomorrow on the program, we've got Dave Bigo going to be talking about Mike Pence and literally the mess that Mike Pence is in, politically speaking, with being the second man on the Republican totem pole for VP. And we're going to talk about that, and we've got a lot of other guests scheduled too. Caller, quickly, good morning. You're on the air. Thank you.
Yes, that lady I just turned it on, just caught the end of it, and she sounds like she knows what she's talking about, but what she said, like, it's just, see, when we lost in 2012, you said to yourself, we cannot do this again.
Nope.
And then the Republican Party, whoever it is, whether or not it's Ryan or McConnell or Mike Crapo or Mike Simpson or whoever, they get away with it, and we talk tough on the radio, on the Zeb Bell program, but you see, and I try to, I don't even know that it would do any good if we were in there.
Wait a minute. Whoa. Randy, the Republicans had 4 years or more to plan for this attack and plan for this battle and plan for a victory. Do you mean to tell me, not you personally, but does anybody mean to tell me that in 4 years' time they couldn't have had a strategy, a backbone strategy that would have defeated Hillary and the Democrats? Come on, I can't buy into that educated men and women in one party can't figure out a strategy.
Well, the Republican rhinos, the establishment of the Republican Party is so they're about keeping the status quo in Washington, D.C., and Trump, across this world, across this nation, Trump is such a threat that, they cannot. I just hope that, like at the Brexit, that Nigel Farage says everybody said it was no chance in hell. Maybe there'll be a miracle. I don't know what triggers a miracle. I don't know when they happen. But I'm praying for one.
I agree with you. I got to run and do a commercial, but Randy, take care of that cough. Feel better. Thank you. I want to remind everybody about our major sponsor, and that's, of course, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with the best in tires. Great big fall tire sale going on right now. And along with all the tires, the best in brake service. That's not brag, that's a fact. Absolutely the best professionally trained technicians working on your brakes. Front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries. Turn the key on these colder mornings. You better make sure you got a battery that's going to turn over the engine on that four-wheeled wonder and get you to work. Well, stop in and have a battery check today at any one of the 7 locations. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Absolutely the best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. That's going to wrap it up and put it back in the box for today. We want to say thank you very much to our engineer Wheels, handling all the calls and the board work over there. Thank you very much. And, of course, I want to wish a belated happy birthday to Melody Bond. Congratulations, birthday yesterday. And tomorrow, happy anniversary to Dal and Helen Bradley. Wonderful people. Until tomorrow at 8:06, Zeb at the Ranch, God bless you and your family. The way things were or the way things ought to be. We'll see you tomorrow morning.